Part A wants the coordinates of the points where this curve crosses the x-axis. So on the x-axis we must have that y is 0, so x cos 2x must equal 0, which means either x equals 0 or cos 2x equals 0. Now if cos 2x equals 0, then 2x is going to be pi by 2 or 3 pi by 2, which means x is going to be pi by 4 or 3 pi by 4. So the x coordinates are 0, pi by 4 and 3 pi by 4. So in terms of coordinates, A would be 0, 0, B would be pi by 4, 0, and C finally would be 3 pi by 4, 0. So there's your three coordinates. Part B wants the integral of x cos 2x, so this is a parts question. So u is equal to x and dv dx is equal to cos 2x. So differentiate this one to get du dx, and du dx is 1, and integrate this one, and if you integrate cos you get sine, so sine 2x divided by 2, so a half sine 2x. And then everything goes into the parts formula, so x cos 2x integrated equals u times v, so a half x sine 2x minus the integral of v times du dx, so a half sine 2x times 1, so just a half sine 2x. And then when we integrate, what we end up with is a half x sine 2x, and if we integrate a half sine 2x excuse me, we get a quarter cos 2x, but when you integrate sine you get minus cos, so this becomes positive, and then we get a plus c on the end. So part C then wants the area of this shaded region. So what you've got to remember here is that areas are above the x-axis come out to be positive, areas below the x-axis come out to be negative. So we've got to do this in two parts. So firstly we're going to do the area from A to B, and this is going to be a half x sine 2x plus a quarter cos 2x, my integral from above. I don't need the c this time because I've got limits, and my limits are 0 and pi by 4. So this is going to be a half of pi by 4 multiplied by the sine of 2 lots of pi by 4, so that's pi by 2, plus a quarter cos pi by 2 again, and then I'm going to take away what I get when I substitute in 0. Well, if I substitute 0 into this first term, it's multiplied by 0, so that's nothing. So I end up with a quarter cos 2 times 0, well that's still 0. And if you work this out, sine pi by 2 is 1, so this gives me pi by 8, and cos pi by 2 is 0, and cos 0 is 1, so what I end up with is pi by 8 minus 1 quarter, or if you prefer 1/8 of pi minus 2. And then I need to find the area from B to C. So same idea again, a half x sine 2x plus a quarter cos 2x is my integral, and then this time my limits are pi by 4 and 3 pi by 4. So again, if you put your limits in, what we end up with is a half of 3 pi by 4 multiplied by the sine of 3 pi by 2 plus a quarter cos 3 pi by 2, and again take away what I get when I put pi by 4 in. Well, when I put pi by 4 in, what I end up with is pi by 8, so I'm taking away pi by 8 here, And then if we work this out, what we end up with is, from this term at the start, we end up with minus 3 pi over 8, because the sine of 3 pi by 2 is minus 1, minus this pi by 8 on the end. So in total here, what we end up with is minus a half pi. And then you've got to remember to change the sign, so my area is equal to plus a half pi. Yeah, don't forget that bit. Therefore my shaded area is going to be equal to pi over 8 minus a quarter plus a half pi. And if you sort this out, what you end up with is 5/8 of pi minus 1/4.